it's your girl Destiny Gilling from the Creative Reading Coach, and I specialize in creating the tools that you need at home to teach your baby how to read. Now, this post is all about how fluency and phonics are directly related, okay? It's inspired because I made this post on Instagram yesterday. You guys loved it. It was filled with comments. People were saving the video. People were saving the picture. People were just really interacting with that content. And so I made a promise that I would make a video about phonics and fluency, all right? Now, I want you to keep in mind that the tips that I share, please know that they are rooted in education practices. So what that means is that you're going to have to take it and see how it fits into you and your schedule as a mom, all right? So first thing first, what is fluency? Fluency is real simple. A lot of people have a definition of it, like the amount of words that are read per minute, or the amount of words that are read when they get a text for the first time and they hadn't read it before. That is a piece of fluency. But to me, what I look at the way that the child is able to get those words out in a nice flow. Are they able to change their voice when they see that a character is speaking? Are they able to monitor punctuation when they see like the comma, when they see an exclamation point, when they have a question mark? Are they able to do those things? So don't get bogged down with the amount of words that are being read. Yes, that's a piece of it, but the overall importance of fluency is for them to get the words out nice and smooth. So you might be saying, well, Destiny, why do I want the words to come out nice and smooth other than just for my personal reasons? The reason you want them to come out nice and smooth is because if they're not, what that means is that they're spending all of their time trying to process how to read those words. And if they're spending all their energy trying to process and read those words, it's not really leaving a lot of room for them to make meaning of what the text is saying. So for example, let's say there was an article written about polar bears, all right? And the sentence was, polar bears live in the nice Arctic weather, all right? Made it up. You might hear your child read it like this. Polar bears. You see how that pause is? Number one, it didn't sound good. Number two, they couldn't even get it all the way out. So you know that they're not even going to be able to tell you where the polar bears live, okay? So I hope that kind of gave you some insight. So a mom said, well, Destiny, what do I do? How am I able to fix this? I'm going to be completely honest and transparent. It takes a lot of work, all right? I'm not going to sit and say, oh, you can do this, you can do that. And anyone who tells you that reading practices are easy at home and that it doesn't require a lot of work or it doesn't take a lot of time, run for the hills, because it does. It takes some time, it takes some strategy, and it takes consistency, all right? Step number one, the first thing you're going to have to do is, if they're reading like that, that means that there's a breakdown in the word reading. You have to figure out where that breakdown is coming from, all right? The way that you do that is, number one, you have to recognize what sounds they know, what sounds they don't know. So you're probably saying, well, Destiny, how in the world do I do that? Okay, this is how I do it, okay? And I do this with my son, and I also do it with my clients that we have that come to our office, okay? So I use this stack of cards here, all right? And they are my favorite, okay? The reason that I love them is because when I created them, what I was realizing is that kids were coming in and what they knew was like all over the place, okay? And I'm not one of those people where I tell you like, oh, we're just gonna teach them words and teach word families, and that I don't believe in that, because guess what? One time they're gonna come across a word and it might be a part of a word family and they may not be able to may not be able to figure it out. So I teach the roots of it, okay? Now, how do I teach it? First thing first, you have to have an order in which things are taught. So this is my sequence in which things are taught. I know that I'm going to teach these specific sounds in this level. These specific sounds in this level, these specific sounds in this level, okay? And what it is, this is what it looks like. There's the card with the picture, and then the sound that correlates with it, okay? And so I literally do that. It's for like basically the entire English language, you can basically say, okay? I teach them each sound, how to read with them, and how they do when they come together, all right? So, I hear you saying now, well, okay, Destiny, I teach them sounds. How do I teach them sounds? All right, so you have to be able to, number one, teach them what the sound says, all right? Number two, they have to have practice actually reading it, all right, in words. So, for example, say the sound is k, because that's the first sound in my stack right here. Then they need to be able to read words like cod, cat, cob, those type of things, all right? And what I do is, and I'll try to put some pictures in here so you can kind of see, when they have that sound, I automatically start teaching repetition of how they'll see it. And I use it by having like a chart, and I time them, and then I have the words in that chart, and they're actually timed of reading, how quickly they can do it. Most kids who struggle with fluency, it usually takes them 3 to 5 minutes to get it done. But then they take that chart home, or they have that chart for an entire week, and then they're able to practice it and do it over and over and over again, and then that time gets smaller. So I already hear you saying, well, Destiny, how does that travel into their reading? Here is a secret, and I want you to think about this for yourself. Once they learn how to read a word, they're not going to be decoding that word when they see it, okay? It becomes automatically stored in their brain. And so when they see cob, they don't have to go cob. You don't do it. Think about when you're reading something. When you're reading put something together, you don't have to sit there and sound words out. You know why? Because you have memorized them. The problem is with our babies who are struggling, they haven't gotten the tools to explicitly learn those sounds, to be able to practice those sounds, to be able to remember those sounds, okay? So yes, it is important, all right? The other thing is they need time to actually decode words, because all the words are not going to be like cob, right? We know that. You might see a word, let's use the word mistake, like I made a mistake. They need an actual practice of being able to read the type of syllable that is. So like mistake, all right? So they need time to be able to do those type of things that are at their level. The other thing is they need time to be able to practice writing those words, because writing and reading are directly related, okay? If they're reading it crazy, they're writing it crazy. If they're writing it crazy, they're reading it crazy. And some people might say, not my kid. I'm not saying this for everybody, but for a good chunk of our most challenged readers, those are directly related, all right? And then the last thing is they need time to be able to use decodable books, okay? So what are decodable books? Decodable books, or sentences or passages or that type of thing, are pieces of text where they follow a specific pattern related to their sound, okay? So for example, this is Jean, like division. They need a passage that has words full of these type of things. Why? Because they're seeing it in isolation, because we've practiced that, we've done our chart, but now they're seeing it in comprehension wise, okay? And I guarantee you the whole purpose of it is that they'll be able to comprehend what they're reading, all right? Here's a little trick I used to always tell my parents. You know that comprehension isn't a problem if you can read them something and then they can answer it, all right? You know phonics is the problem is when they read it and then you ask them to answer something and they can't, all right? Phonics vocabulary. All right, so now you need a quick fix now because you're at home, right? It's gonna take some time to learn this stuff, which you can do. I'll link the, if you wanna purchase these cards, I will link it in the comments below. But while you're waiting to get these, you need a quick fix. I do this in addition to what I'm about to tell you. There's this thing called repeated reading, okay? And what repeated reading is, it is basically getting a text, and the text needs to be on their level. I had to come close and say that, okay? The text must be on their level, all right? The reason it must be on their level is because if it is too hard for them, you're gonna be telling them over and over, this word is this word is that. If it's too easy for them, then they don't have to practice any of the fluency strategies. What repeating reading is for them to get a text on their level and they repeatedly read it aloud, all right? The whole purpose of it is start here and work your way down. So like for my kids in the center, they get that text when they come on day 1 or day 2 or day 3, and then they practice it for an entire week and then they come back. Now, here is the key that most people miss. They say that strategy don't work. Repeated reading works when it has been modeled correctly the first time. It's like handing you a piece of paper and say, here, go do this. If you have not shown me how to do it, then I'm not going to do it the way that you want me to do it. So I always tell parents, make sure you read it aloud to them first. You can even record yourself reading it aloud so they can listen to it and read along with you. You can do all those things, and that helps with storing words into their brain as well at a different rate than doing this, because they're reading it over and over and over. So if they see the word cobweb, right, they may not have been able to decode it the first time they read it, but guess what? They've been reading it for 7 days, and so now cobweb is automatically stored in their brain, and we didn't have to go through this process, all right? So those are my tips and tricks for increasing phonics and fluency. They are hand in hand. The biggest takeaway is know what it is that they don't know. Be prepared to teach it to them in isolation. Allow time for repetition. Allow time for them to use decodables. And allow time for them to hear what appropriate fluency sounds like. You do those things, you're good to go. Leave your comments at the bottom, and if you enjoyed this and if it brought you any value, make sure you subscribe to our video channel. I'll see you in the next video.